Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them. But before we get into that, we have hit 20,000 subscribers here on the channel. We are having a giveaway right now. We're going to be giving away a PCP mystery box filled with goodies, comics, movies, toys, pretty much everything that we talk about here on the channel is going to be represented in some form or fashion. Now, some of the stuff that you can expect in this mystery box will include the trade paperback for Spider-Man Reign. It's got a sequel coming out. The original is top-notch. I just recently reread it. We talked a little bit about it on Rockin' Robbie Live. That's going to be part of the package, as well as every single issue of Avengers Twilight, which might be, definitely so far, the best Marvel book, not only of 2024, but in years. All 6 issues of Avengers Twilight right there, and this Hulk Grand Design, a regular size trade paperback from Jim Rugg, and it's even going to include a book plate, that's what they're called, a book plate signed by creator Jim Rugg. So all that and more, all you got to do to enter to win, and in the US only, is comment on this video. Comment on this video, and in fact, if you want some extra opportunities to win, comment on every video that we released this week, starting with Sunday night's Rockin' Robbie Live and all the way through Saturday's weekly pop culture wrap-up. You have a new chance to win every single video as long as you drop a comment. And we're talking about PCP movie night. We're talking about the top-down, bottoms-up. We're about to drop on Iron Man #1 from Heroes Reborn. Talking about the Youngblood #1 video, the In a Violent Nature movie review. Every video we release this week, comment on it. It will give you another chance to win. We will announce the winner Sunday night on Rockin' Robbie Live. All right, now it's time to get into the comic book review with the pick of the week, because we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Destro issue #1 from Image Comics, Skybound Entertainment, and the Energon Universe. This is the next step in the road to G.I. Joe, right? So we had the Cobra Commander series, we had the Duke series, now we've just gotten Scarlet issue #1, and now Destro issue #1. And holy cow, this might be my favorite so far. I love the character of Destro, but I also really love the work of Dan Watters. Dan Watters is the writer here, and even mentions in a little bit of an essay at the back that he didn't grow up with G.I. Joe, but once he did a little bit of research into who Destro is, he thought this was the character for him to write, and he's having so much fun writing him, and you can definitely pick it up here in the pages of Destro. This is a nice follow-up to Cobra Commander. We get to follow in on Destro, who he is, his background, how he operates, and we also get introduced to so many other characters in the G.I. Joe world. In Destro's corner of that world in particular, I had so much fun with it. It had this great sense of fun, it had this sense of danger and menace, and it just freaking rocked. The artwork by Andre Brisson is really freaking cool, but you see Destro doing what Destro does, which is a lot of evil, nasty things, all to turn a profit. You got a little bit of Cobra Commander in there, and even more surprises. I had a lot of fun with this. I know that y'all know that I am loving the Energon Universe, but seriously, even if you're not a Joe head, but you love Dan Watters and you like good, solid comics, check out Destro #1. It might work for you. This book was phenomenal. Then we've got Misery, issue #1, a new miniseries set in the Spawn world, written by Todd McFarlane with artwork by Szymon Kudranski. This was a book, I believe, that was first announced and even worked on years ago. It's taken a long time for this book to come, but it follows Cyan, who of course is not Spawn's daughter, but the daughter of Terry and Wanda. So in a way, Spawn feels a little bit of a paternal sense towards her, right? But she's grown up now. She's starting to develop her own powers. This is her going off, doing her own thing, getting involved in her own adventure. I did like it. I thought it was solid. The artwork was supremely awesome, especially with some of the composition. So Misery #1 did not disappoint. This is going to be a 4-issue series. Then we've got Spawn 354, a great issue of Spawn anchored by amazing artwork from Brett Booth. He really knows what he's doing. So we got this new character in the pages of Spawn. Is she an angel? Is she a demon? Is she friend? Is she foe? We find out a little bit more about that character here in the pages of the latest issue of Spawn, but it just had a great sense of energy and pace throughout. It never felt clunky, and this is one of the better issues of the solo Spawn title in months, honestly. I've had a lot of fun with this book, especially since Brett Booth came in. So Spawn 354, that was pretty wild. Then we've got the One Hand issue number 5, the final issue of the One Hand, and this is not an ending I was expecting. I'm very excited to read the final issue of Six Fingers, which is still to come, to see how it all really comes together, and I cannot wait to just sit down and reread all of these all at once in one sitting. But the One Hand starts as your typical noirish detective story, but it's set in the future. It starts finding that identity in the story as the series progresses, and now it gets to the end. This is a book that could only happen in this future noirish setting. I had a lot of fun with this book, a lot of fun with this mystery. It is a challenging ending, and I love it. It gave me some opportunity to kind of like let it sink in and think about it, and really interesting themes that are being unpacked here in the final issue of One Hand. But the final issue of Six Fingers will probably shed even more light on what happens here, because the books, even though they are kind of on their own, they definitely need to be enjoyed together. So the One Hand number 5 did not disappoint me. Let's jump over to Marvel. We've got Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime, an oversized $7.99 one-shot celebrating Dr. Duck. Celebrating Uncle Scrooge. This was a really cool story. It's written by Jason Aaron. It's got a few different artists. All their names seem to be Italian, so I'm not even going to try it. But really great classic Uncle Scrooge. I almost said Dr. Duck again. Really nice classic feeling Uncle Scrooge story that has a lot of ties directly to his original the first Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge book, which was Christmas on Bear Mountain, has ties to that. In fact, so much so it actually reprints Christmas on Bear Mountain here in the back. So if you've never read that, it's the first Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge story, and it's definitely worth checking out, and it's a holiday favorite of mine. I like to open it up and read it around every Christmas time, but I had a lot of fun with this book. The basic premise is this. There's an evil Uncle Scrooge out there somewhere in the multiverse who wants to steal all of the lucky dimes from all the other Uncle Scrooges across the multiverse, right? The Infinity Dime. And thus we have a multiversal Uncle Scrooge. I almost said Dr. Duck again. We have a multiversal Uncle Scrooge. You know, in a multiverse with infinite possibilities and realities, there is a Dr. Duck out there somewhere. Anyway, was that the character in the Spider-Ham universe that was like the Doctor Doom one? Was that Dr. Duck? Was it Dr. Doom? It was Dr. Doom, wasn't it? Anyway, Dr. Duck is not in this one, nor is Dr. Doom, but Uncle Scrooge is, and a variety of them. I had a lot of fun with this, had a lot of heart. They could have just put the Jason Aaron story out and had this actually be like a $4 to $5 comic, but it's also cool to have Christmas at Bear Mountain on there, though it's not handled in the reprint quite as well as the Fantagraphics one. I would recommend that. Fantagraphics with their paper quality and the way they're reproducing those colors, but it's actually not too bad. It's not like overly gaudy or nothing. So I really did like that. A great Alex Ross cover, a bunch of covers, including a Frank Miller cover. Now, I've said in the last year these sentences. I never thought we would have a Blade cover by Frank Miller. I never thought we would have a Thanos cover by Frank Miller. Well, I definitely never thought we'd have an Uncle Scrooge cover by Frank Miller. But I think I kind of like it. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. All right, then we got Venomverse Reborn, issue number 1. I wanted to not read this one because I've not been reading Al Ewing's Venom. I'm not excited about this Venom War project coming up because I've just been so unplugged from Venom, which is crazy because I really love that character. And I can read all those stupid old school 90s series that are, like, for the most part, not actually good, but I adore them. So I hate not being into Venom right now, so I decided, you know, it's an issue number 1. It's my job. Let's read Venomverse Reborn, and I didn't hate it. There is a story involving the Gamerverse Venom, the Venom from the Spider-Man video game, so that was neat. But then there was another story about, like, basically both stories are kind of approaching the task of what if Eddie Brock wasn't Venom? Well, somebody else would be Venom, or he'd be jumping from host to host. That's what's going on in the second story. It involves the Avengers. I like that story. Had kind of a chilling sense to it. But overall, I didn't hate it, but it's going to be another one of those things with a bunch of like short stories introducing Venoms from across the multiverse so they can all come together in Venom War or something. I don't know. But the first issue wasn't bad. But then we got Venom Separation Anxiety, issue number 2. This is one of those dumb Venom comics from the 90s. It's written by David Michelinie, who wrote Lethal Protector and wrote the original appearances of Venom, along with Todd McFarlane on the art, and then eventually Eric Larson and Mark Bagley. Really always loved his early Venom work, and this book scratches that 90s old school Lethal Protector Venom kind of itch, right? But the Purple Man has been infected a little bit by Eddie's symbiote, by the symbiote, and so we got like a symbiote version of Purple Man, and Venom has to go up against him. The Thing makes an appearance. It's dumb, old school, super fun. So Venom Separation Anxiety, I really did like that. Then we got Doctor Strange issue number 16. This is from Jed MacKay and Pascal Ferry, and it is dealing with Doctor Strange's brother, Victor Strange, who's been in the Crypt of Shadows, tied into the story, just kind of in the background. Now he makes his move and possesses the vampiric version of Doctor Strange and has a nice little fight with Wong. I liked it, not super essential to your understanding of Blood Hunt or anything like that, but a good, solid Doctor Strange story that didn't involve Doctor Strange, really, but also paid off a lot of stuff that's been building up for a time. So Doctor Strange number 16, I'm still enjoying that book a lot. Then we've got Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 6, and rejoice, Comicdom, because Marco Cicchetto is back on the artwork, and the artwork is soaring. There's some revelations in this issue, mostly revelations not to us, the reader, but to people in the story. So I liked how that was approached and the way that it was handled. You get a great big fight between Kingpin and Green Goblin and Spider-Man, and it is awesome. It is awesome. Like, the artwork is great, the story is great, and the way that Jonathan Hickman, he's not like doing like a Brian Michael Bendis thing, but he's putting a lot of wit and charm into this book, and it comes across in the dialogue. It's one of the most unlike Hickman books out there, and I mean that as a huge compliment, because Spider-Man's not necessarily the book for that wide scope and scale kind of giant story that he likes to do with things like Gods or his work on Avengers or even Fantastic Four or even Ultimate Invasion. This is a smaller story, a more personal story, a more grounded story, but at the same time still got a lot of superheroic fun. It was awesome. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Batman 149 by Chip Zdarsky, and we've got a fill-in artist here that's not quite as dynamic or kinetic or energetic as Jorge Jimenez, but it gets the job done. It's Michelle Bandini and Steve Lieber. Steve Lieber's actually a really solid artist, but I liked this story. I haven't really been super into Chip Zdarsky's Batman run, but this issue is kind of like a standalone issue, a coda of sorts, if you will, to the Failsafe story, and a lot of loose ends get wrapped up, involving, of course, the clone of Bruce, who was Zur-En-Arrh's Robin. We deal with that in a very touching way that I thought was not heavy-handed or overwrought in any kind of way. I actually really did like it, but a lot of things kind of get wrapped up in a nice little bow to kind of set up a new direction for Batman, a new existence for Batman, just in time for Absolute Power to just wreck it all. But anyway, Batman 149, one of the better issues of Batman since that initial Failsafe arc, that first one with Jorge Jimenez. Then we got Batman Superman World's Finest, issue number 28, continuing the Impossible story. So you got a huge big bad from the fifth dimension that even Mxyzptlk and Batmite are scared of, and it's all up to Jimmy Olsen. That's right, it's all up to Jimmy Olsen in this issue, but you also got Batman and Superman led by Batman, or Batmite, led by Batmite throughout all the other dimensions. Some cool usages of that, kind of going back through the past and the future and the present of these characters. Great artwork from Dan Mora that is top-notch. Amazing coloring from Tamara Bonvillain. Fantastic book. I'm having a lot of fun with this. It's an old school type story with a new school approach. I really do like that. Wonder Woman number 10. Y'all, I'm a damn fan of this Tom King Wonder Woman run. Did not like it at first. started winning me over a little bit. Got a little shaky for a moment with the fill-in issue where they go, Superman and Wonder Woman go to buy Batman a gift in some kind of stupid space station ripped out of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But man, I'm really liking it. I really am. This one focuses in on the dynamic between Sheeta and Wonder Woman, and also the Wonder Girls have a nice little, like, humorous kind of subplot going on here. Man, I'm really liking this book. And one of the best things about it to me is the structure. The way that Tom King is playing with the structure in this book works for me. And Daniel St. Perry's artwork is top-notch. And honestly, I'm quite a fan of this Tom King Wonder Woman book. So there you go. There you go. I mean, I stuck with it, and I'm being rewarded for it. All right, then we got Nightwing here with issue number 115. This is the second part of the final story by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. Heartless? 'Cause I'm heartless. Go woman so heartless. Kanye. My bad. Kanye. The Weeknd. Both did songs called Heartless. Both songs I really like. But the villain's pretty freaking cool too. He finally makes his move. It is the end game. You feel it. I really love the way it was all set up. Bruno Redondo's artwork is pretty freaking solid. And I like it when there's a villain that is being built up, and when they finally make their move, you're just like, damn, bro. And that's exactly how this book made me feel. It's going to be sad to see Taylor and Redondo leave this book, but it's been a solid run. A little inconsistent sometimes, mostly only because of tie-ins. They're more than likely forced. But the actual story, especially when Bruno's on the artwork, has been pretty freaking good. Titans is here with issue number 12, and it's aight. It's aight. But like I said on Rockin' Robbie Live Sunday night, an I book from DC right now, to me, is actually a higher quality than an I book from Marvel. Like, an I book from Marvel is like Venomverse Reborn, which is not that great. This is a book that's not that great either, but it's a little bit more consistent. It's a pretty solid story. They're building up the idea that the evil part of Raven is taking over her, and maybe some of the Titans are realizing it. More of the Titans should realize it after this issue. It's not my favorite book at DC, but it's serviceable, and I keep reading it, and I keep relatively enjoying it. So, Titans number 12. It's aight. Then we got Green Lantern War Journal issue number 10. This series is going to be ending at issue number 12, and that's unfortunate because Philip Kennedy Johnson has really gotten very comfortable writing the character of John Stewart. John Stewart, his world, his background, his character, his family, his place in the DC universe, all of it is ringing so freaking true. The artwork's been great, the scale of it, and along with what Jeremy Adams is doing in the Hal Jordan book, they both are playing with ideas of the emotional spectrum and things like that without leaning too heavily in retconning or rebuilding stuff that Jeff Johns set up, which I really do like and appreciate. This has been a really solid book, getting into that character of John Stewart. It's only got 2 issues left. That's sad because this book is phenomenal. It really, really is. Then we got John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America, issue number 6. This is just cool, old school, classic Vertigo Hellblazer stuff, right? Hellblazer is there, John is there with a couple of companions going across America trying to find the 3 fates. It's tied in to his early appearance in the early issues of Sandman. Swamp Thing makes an appearance here. The artwork by Aaron Campbell is frickin' to die for. It's great, but as they're driving and traveling through America, they are coming across the poisoning of America, right, by the 3 fates, these 3 witches or whatever, right? And, like, I love the way that this is it's very similar to the Brian Azzarello run, but a little bit more gritty, right? If that makes sense. I love the Brian Azzarello run on Hellblazer. It's one of my favorites, actually. But I'm telling you, Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell and company, Jordi Belair, they're actually stepping right in with those giants like Jamie Delano and Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis and Warren Ellis and Paul Jenkins and Mike Carey and Brian Azzarello and Richard Corbin and Sean Phillips and all these great writers and artists who have had a hand in the Vertigo Constantine book right here, y'all. You don't get much better than that. Then we've got Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 3, foil facsimile version, and yes, y'all know it. It's getting the smell of the week because DC uses a newsprint type paper for these facsimiles, and they work. So right now we've got Secret Wars being out, facsimile versions in foil, and Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is just like a 90s Robbie's dream, man. 2 of my favorite big events in comics re-released in great facsimile form with foil covers. Get out of here. Then we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution, issue number 2. I'm liking this book. Now, I know some people aren't going to really respond as well as they did to the first Last Ronin because it doesn't have the Last Ronin in it. It doesn't have Michelangelo or anything. This is continuing the story. All the original turtles are gone, and now it's April and her daughter, Case, who have to train a new generation of Ninja Turtles, and it kind of has a lot of depth to it. Now, it is a little bit wordy, sometimes a little clunky where it's just telling and telling and telling, not as much showing. But even for an oversized book, I never found it to be a drag. I never found it to be boring. I'm really enjoying this book, and even though it doesn't have the Last Ronin, doesn't have the original Turtles, doesn't have that original vibe, I am digging these new characters. I am digging this new world of New York that they live in, and there's a lot of exposition, a lot of talking. That could be ironed out, could be a little bit more dynamic, but then you get to the ending, and it's pretty freaking cool. So, all in all, I'm really digging Last Ronin 2. Then we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green, issue number 2. And just like the first one, it's got some solid artwork in it, especially that story right there. Some really great artwork there. Who was that? Who is that? That's Gavin Smith. Of course that's Gavin Smith. Then we got a Tyler Boss story and a Javi Rodriguez story. Art's great. The stories are okay. They're serviceable, but cover of the week right there, the variant cover by Jeffrey Allen Love. I got to hang out with him a little bit last year at Heroes Con. Super cool dude, and I love his artwork, and that's the cover of the week right there. From Dark Horse Comics, we got The Writer. It's a new one with artwork by Ariel Olivetti, which was cool. I really did like the art. It's kind of like a Jewish mythology-inspired superhero, right? This dude has the powers of a golem, so he gets this special paper, writes something on it, eats it, and he gets those powers. He has to go up against this, like, order, this anti-Semitic, Nazi, racist kind of order or something. The story was a little clunky. It's got a lot of cool concepts. It's got some really cool artwork, but all in all, it just didn't execute efficiently and cleanly, and it felt just a little... just kind of felt a little stop-start at times and a little muddy. But overall, it was still a pretty cool, solid concept. Then we got Helen of Wyndhorn, issue number 3. Y'all, I'm loving this book too. It's written by Tom King with beautiful artwork by Bill Key, Evely, Mateus Lopez on the coloring, and great lettering from Clayton Cowles, actually. But this story is our main character going on an adventure with her grandfather. We learn more about this fantasy world that he goes to, where he disappears to. We learn about their similarities. We learn about their differences. So it's got that core root of family and that family dynamic, but also just a wondrous, imaginative world that's being built here with beautiful, beautiful textured, detailed, dense, and rich artwork. Absolutely amazing stuff. And the use of narration here, unlike my opinion on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the use of narration here works flawlessly with the book. It doesn't feel too verbose. It doesn't feel like that's holding the script back. All the emotion is there. All the wonder is there. And it all shines right through. Helen of Wyndhorn, number 3. Another solid issue. And another solid issue of the oddly pedestrian life of Christopher Chaos is here with issue number 10. Man, I'm loving this book. I really, really am. It's kind of like a monster club. Like, they want to be like superheroes, good guys. There's Christopher Chaos, who's like a mad scientist. The Frankenstein monster's there. There's a woman who's like a witch who can talk to ghosts or something. There's this dude named Dracula Boy who's a vampire. And the story's just been so much fun. It's about identity. It's about figuring who you are out and who you belong with and stuff like that. Like your community, your purpose. It's dealing with all that kind of stuff in a really heavy way. And not heavy-handed, but just a very nuanced kind of way. And I really just got to highlight real quick, because I don't think I go over it too much, but Isaac Goodhart is a freaking fantastic artist. The art here is so amazing. Like, seriously, the action scenes sizzle, crackle, and pop. Snap, crackle, pop, 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 boom. And the colors by Miguel Muerto are so bold and vibrant and freaking awesome. We get introduced to some werewolves too. We find out who they are. Just a great book that I don't think a lot of people are reading. Shame. Shame, more people need to read that book. The Butcher's Boy is here with issue number 2. I almost didn't read this because I didn't remember issue number 1. Then I flipped through this and I was like, oh, I remember issue number 1. So it's about this group of friends. They're having some drama. They go on a trip. Turns out they go to this weird place where we've already been shown that there's going to be some horrific events that happen. So this issue is focusing more on the drama. It keeps going back and forth between the present day and like 2 months prior. It feels a little disjointed because of that. It feels a little bit just kind of obvious and just okay. It's not completely winning me over, so I don't know. I might skip out on issue number 3, or I might not. I don't know. It depends on how I feel a month from now when it releases. But if you're reading this book, what are you thinking about it? From Boom Studios, we have Uncanny Valley, issue number 3. Tony Fleece, David Wachter, doing such a great job. This is a kid who is part cartoon, right? So he lives in the real world. He's a real kid, but he has cartoon powers. So if he draws a tunnel on the side of a mountain, he can walk through that tunnel. If he is whistling and not paying attention and walks off a cliff, he's going to walk right across until he realizes that he's walking on thin air, then he's going to fall. It's cartoon language, and Tony Fleece keeps pulling it out, and it's great, but he, of course, is the chosen one, so his grandfather, who's basically Yosemite Sam, is there trying to save him and lead him on this journey, onto this adventure. It's got a really cool ending there, too, but I just love how we're playing with with cartoon tropes, including, what was the cartoon about the dude who turned to a car? Remember that one? I can't remember what it's called right now. But the kid would actually turn to a car. What was the name of that? There's like a play on that here, and when it happened, it cracked me up. I laughed out loud. Tony, I laughed out loud. Great job there. Then we've got Man's Best, issue number 4. This kind of like Homeward Bound in space, right? It's a cat and 2 dogs. They're on a spaceship. The spaceship gets attacked. Their owner gets kidnapped. They're searching through all kinds of craziness to find them, right? Going from planet to planet, reality, things like that. The story's okay. It's decent. It hits like a big crucial point here, setting up for, I guess, the final issue. Maybe it's just a 5-issue series. It feels that way. But the real star here is Jesse Lonergan's artwork. I got to hang out with him last year at Heroes Con. I really regret not being able to go to Heroes Con this year. But it's okay. It's been a solid week anyway. But Man's Best, issue number 4. Jesse Lonergan's artwork is freaking amazing. Really cool, wild stuff, especially when we get into some of the more trippier aspects of the story. But it also does have a little bit of heart. And stories involving animals can kind of be easy to pull those heartstrings, or it can be overly done and kind of cheesy. Porsack Pittichote is actually doing a solid job with it. So Man's Best number 4 is pretty decent, pretty decent. Then we got The Displaced here with issue number 5. This feels like final issue. And if this is the final issue, rather abrupt, rather kind of quick way to wrap the story up, but it feels like this story has legs and could keep going. But I don't know if it is. If anybody out there knows, let me know. But I've enjoyed this book. It's about this town that just disappears. People that were on the outskirts of town, who weren't within the borders of that town, they still are alive, but people don't remember them. And when they're not around somebody for a certain amount of time, they'll fade away into non-existence, right? So it's kind of just very quickly wraps up the story with a very clunky kind of setup for where the book could go if it comes back. But I don't think I've seen this solicited. But I haven't been scrounging the solicitations like I used to. I kind of like being surprised week to week almost. But The Displaced issue number 5, it's been a good book, but that was just a really, rushed ending, it felt like. From Mad Cave Studio, we have Galaxy of Madness issue number 1. This is from Magdalene Visaggio and Michael Avon Oeming. I love the artwork. I'm a huge fan of Oeming, have been since the days Powers first came out with him and Brian Michael Bendis. The artwork was great. It's a sci-fi story that is a little hard to wrap your head around. I think it's intentionally confusing, honestly. I think it is, because even in the back when they're talking about the next issue, what does it say? It's like, check it out in our next gripping, mystifying, and needlessly convoluted book. I think the book was a little convoluted. It was hard for me to get a zone in on each of the characters and what really was going on. There's a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas. Some of them worked, some of them didn't land. The characters didn't really quite win me over yet, but there's a lot of intriguing stuff that's going on here with the art and with the concepts and even with the characters that I may want to come back and read issue number 2. overall, I would say I'm a fan of Visaggio's work. I haven't seen anything from her in a long time, so I was excited to read this. Michael Avon Oeming's artwork is great. Mag's a little convoluted in the story, but I think that's intentional, which means it's a challenge. I shall read it again and let you know how I feel. All right, over at Dynamite, we've got Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft, issue number 5. The final issue really wraps this thing up in a really nice, tidy bow in a very fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of way. David Avallone knows what he's doing with the character of Elvira. He always writes her perfect. It always has that perfect balance of camp and respect and reverence to old-school horror, as well as to Elvira and the cult that she's brewed out, right? Great, solid artwork, a really great conclusion, and a setup for the next story, which I cannot wait to see. Should have some sexy covers. Let's just say that. From Blood Moon Comics, we have Deliver Us from Evil. This one is alright. It's a horror comic involving a lot of like devil, Lucifer, demonic kind of stuff. It's got some really cool concepts, but it just feels like a bunch of stuff kind of thrown together, and it never really comes together as a cohesive whole for me. So Deliver Us from Evil, I wanted to check it out because I thought that the art had potential. It's got this nice grit to it, pretty decent use of the black and white, but it does feel a little bit stiff, and then the disjointed nature of the story and the concepts didn't really help iron that out. There were things about this that were intriguing, but overall, I wouldn't really recommend this. All right, now, I haven't read this yet because I still haven't read the last issue. In fact, I'm still making my way through issue number 3, or issue number 1, but issue number 3 of Penthouse Comics is here, and it's got some sexy stuff. It's got some sexy pictures. It's got some sexy comics. Oh, look at that guy. Gilliam March is in here, who draws some sexy people. It's not as erotic as one might think, to be honest, but it's pretty solid. Like, I'm like 2/3 of the way through, I think, the first issue, and so far I'm liking it, but I need to sit down one day and just kind of go through my Penthouse Comics because I'm enjoying it. I am. All right, then we got this trade that's from Tomorrow Publishing, I believe. Yeah. So this is called Comic Book Implosion Expanded Edition. This is a historical record of the 1978 comic book implosion over at DC. It's something that I know about and have heard about from older fans over the years. Something I've always been interested in learning more about. So that's why I picked this up, so that I could sit down and read it. And it looks like it's got interviews, and it looks like it's got articles and quotes and all this kind of stuff putting together what exactly happened to DC, why it almost completely imploded and went away. An oral history of DC Comics circa 1978 by Keith Dallas and John Wells. So I think that was really cool. Smells really good too. That's a co-smell of the week. And then this one from Fantagraphics Underground, which just caught my eye. It's called The Lost Worlds of George Metzger. I'm not familiar with this artist, but I do like to check out Fantagraphics stuff, especially Fantagraphics Underground stuff. And when I opened this up, I was like, this is my kind of shit. Black and white comics with texture, with duo shade, with screen tone, with hatching. Really cool different styles, really great approaches to it. Worlds Lost, Worlds Found. George Metzger's comics stand out for their captivating combination of high fantasy and science fiction, his astonishingly prescient views of climate change and political chicanery, and just when you need it, the right touch of whimsy and imaginative insight. Explore a feudal landscape in roaring, rumbling, steam-powered vehicles as the mysterious Moondog offers hope to a fallen civilization desperate for a new renaissance. Swoop and soar the skies in an anarchistic... It's like I cannot say that. Airships and personal flyers in Moo, the land that never was. Hitchhike away from urban strife and get back to nature by homesteading with the hippies. It's all here in this long-awaited anthology of George Metzger's most iconic and most idiosyncratic comic creations, including 2 never-seen stories rediscovered after missing for decades. Stuff looks freaking awesome, y'all. Looks right up my alley. Cannot wait to dive into that. So to recap, I got this book. Don't know anything about that artist, but it looks really cool. Comic Book Implosion. Excited to dive into that. Penthouse Comics for the pervert and all of us. Deliver Us from Evil didn't quite work for me. Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft, a very satisfying conclusion. Galaxy of Madness, a little bit challenging. I will accept that challenge. Displaced felt like a very rushed ending to a really solid story. Man's Best, the art is the star, but the story does have a little bit of nuance. Uncanny Valley, Tony Fleece having fun playing with cartoons and the real world yet again. Butcher's Boy, I'm on the fence with that one. We shall see. The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos has got great art and is definitely one of the most underappreciated comics on shelves right now. Helen of Wyndhorn is amazing and beautiful and riveting. The writer was a little clunky in its story. It's got some interesting concepts. The art was good, but it didn't fully work for me. TMNT, Black, White, and Green, cover of the week, Jeffrey Allen Love. Great stuff and some really great artwork in the pages. Last Ronin 2, Re-Evolution. I'm digging this book, even without the original Turtles. A Foil Crisis, you know I'm here for that. Hellblazer Dead in America, that Vertigo feel for Constantine, and it's so needed. I love it. Green Lantern War Journal coming to an end soon, and that's sad because that book slaps. Titans is okay, but okay at DC is actually pretty solid. Nightwing issue 115, the second part of the final story by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. Heartless makes his move. Why? Because he's heartless, and he's back to his ways. Because he's heartless. Literally, his name is Heartless. He doesn't have a heart. Wonder Woman, number 10. I'm a fan of Tom King's Wonder Woman run. Batman, Superman, World's Finest 28. Classic old school stuff with a new school flair. Why do I like saying that so much? I do. Batman 149 was a pretty solid issue. Kind of tidies some things up, getting ready for Absolute Power. Ultimate Spider-Man number 6. This was a great issue. Another great issue. Marco Cicchetto is back. Doctor Strange number 16. Love this. I'm loving this run by Jed McKay. Venom Separation Anxiety. Big dumb 90s Venom fun. With the Purple Man. Venomverse Reborn. It's aight. But aight. At Marvel, it's just okay. You know what I'm saying? Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime. I was really impressed with that. I had a lot of fun. That was a fun comic to read. Really was. The One Hand issue number 5. An interesting, challenging ending that I did not see coming. And I cannot wait to read Six Fingers and then reread all that together. Spawn. A great issue with Brett Booth artwork and a great brisk pace all the way through it. Misery was pretty decent. Solid artwork from Simon Kudronsky and a decent story from Todd McFarlane. Destro, though, the pick of the week. Frickin' love this book. Written by Dan Waters. Great artwork by Andre Brisson. Let me show you another cool page. Can we show you a cool page? How about that? Can we show you that page? I mean, Crimson Guard. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Pretty cool. And don't forget to enter the 20K giveaway where you could possibly win the trade paperback of Spider-Man Reigns, every single issue of Avengers Twilight, and the trade paperback of Hulk Grand Design with a bookplate signed by cartoonist Jim Ruck. So, y'all, comment on this video, comment on every video we've released this week from Sunday's Rockin' Robbie Live up until this Saturday's weekly pop culture wrap-up. Give yourself extra chances to win an awesome prize package. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and drop us a comment below. What do you think about the books you're reading? What are you reading? What are you digging? What do you love? And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Ha ha. Boom!